Two of the most extraordinary men in American history meet for one of the most controversial dinners in American history. Now that should be a movie. Hello, and thank you for watching today's episode of That Should Be a Movie. I'm C.W. Johnson Jr. Today's book I'd like to pitch as a movie is Guest of Honor, Booker T. Washington, Theodore Roosevelt, and the White House Dinner That Shocked the Nation, by Deborah Davis from Atria Books. Booker T. Washington and Theodore Roosevelt are two of the most inspiring and fascinating characters in American history, and shared many similarities. According to Davis, they both pursued lofty goals in childhood, found love and suffered loss as young men, embraced public service throughout their careers, and emerged as leaders. They both had rebellious daughters from their first marriages, and both built grand houses for their families. Roosevelt's, Sagamore Hill, and Washington's, the Oaks. They lived at the same time, so it was only natural that their parallel lives would intertwine. Each man's lives are worthy of biopics. I have gone into TR's life in Mornings on Horseback by David McCullough, and plan on exploring more aspects of his life in River of Doubt by Candace Millard. Booker T's amazing life is chronicled in his autobiography, Up from Slavery, and in the biography, Up from History, by Robert J. Norrell. And one day I'll probably do a whole episode just on those books. Here's the incredible story of a fatherless teenage former slave who worked in the mines while going to school at night, saved up enough money to go to a better school, walked to that school after he ran out of money, and worked as a janitor at that school, and then went on to become the Black Moses, a leader of his people with his Tuskegee Institute. Now that should be a movie. Roosevelt and Washington first met after the Spanish-American War. TR and his Rough Riders were being quarantined in Montauk, New York, and Booker T wanted to meet with him to discuss offering scholarships for black Cubans to the Tuskegee Institute, and to make sure the Buffalo Soldiers were recognized for their contribution to the victory. According to journalist Max Bennett Thrasher, the two men talked about the bravery of the black soldiers, for whom TR had the highest of praise. Note, TR did not always give the Buffalo Soldiers the respect they deserved. Like most people during his time, he would be considered a white supremacist and racist by modern standards. He was also blowhard and exceedingly loud-mouthed, proud, and brass, spoke faster than he thought, and violated the free speech of citizens taking pictures of him, like someone else in the White House. Wah, 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 wah. Critics said his book about his experience in Cuba should have been called Alone in Cuba. The first White House meeting between TR and Booker T happened on Sunday, September 29th, 9 p.m. Booker T was escorted to the library by two black servants. The Black Moses and the Great White Chief met to discuss federal appointments to civil service positions. In a novel idea, TR proposed appointing the best man to the job, regardless of skin color. He even suggested appointing black judges in the North. The first man Booker T suggested for appointment was a white Democrat, ex-governor of Alabama, T.G. Jones, who was a proponent of education for both races and opposed to lynching. In this way, Booker T became an advisor, a czar. Only one reporter for the Los Angeles Times wrote anything about this meeting. The next meeting came with an official, formal invitation to dinner, and would be the first time ever that an African American dined in the White House. It was October 16th, 1901, and although Washington at first hesitated, he accepted the invite because he had just come back from a European trip on which he had had tea with the Queen of England. For dinner at the White House, he and TR had mock turtle soup, boiled filet of veal, potatoes a la Delmonico, fried eggplant and smashed squash, olive saucer pudding, apple snow, and crispy cookies. TR dominated the conversation. Booker T could hold his own conversation, but took his time. Another guest, Philip Stewart, had much to say about his excursion to Colorado. Booker T noticed that the Roosevelt children were at the table along with their pet snakes and mice, expressed opinions, and behaved like children. As far as anyone was concerned, it was just another meal. But in the weeks to come, newspapers reacted vehemently against the idea of a black man visiting the White House, because that meant he was out of his place. Some Southerners felt betrayed by Roosevelt, who considered himself half Southern. Songs filled with racial epithets mocked the meeting. Political cartoonists made innuendos about miscegenation by drawing Alice Roosevelt at the table. even though she wasn't even at the White House at the time. One racist group even hired a black man to assassinate Washington. But he broke his leg as he jumped from the train when it pulled into Tuskegee, and was taken to the only hospital in town that accepted blacks, the school infirmary. The kindness of the nurses and doctors gave the assassin a change of heart, and he slipped out of town as soon as he was better. There was also criticism from African Americans. Many of the Northern intellectuals looked down upon Booker T for being a former slave and focusing on industrial education rather than the classical and arts. Black leaders like William Monroe Trotter, William Henry Lewis, and W. E. B. Du Bois considered him to be a passive, subservient impediment to black progress, as well as a show-off. According to them, T.R. invited the wrong Negro. Booker T met T.R. a week later at a convention at New Haven, Connecticut, to receive an honorary degree. Reporters descended, hoping to capture pictures of them meeting together again in order to keep the story alive. Although it was awkward, both men continued to remain in contact through letters and would meet many more times over the years, including at the White House again and at Tuskegee, to hear Booker T's advice on appointments, speeches, and anything else related to blacks in the South. Their relationship was strained in the end due to the Brownville incident. African American soldiers were accused of a crime in southwest Texas, and their whole company refused to turn them over to the law. Due to T.R.'s sense of duty and discipline, he punished the whole company. Booker T's pleas to him not to do this fell on deaf ears. In 1970, the accused soldiers were exonerated. A movie about T.R. and Booker T's White House dinner and their subsequent relationship could make great mini biopics of both characters while examining that period of history. Highlights could include the lack of African American exhibits and the presence of negative stereotypes at the Columbian Exposition in Chicago, and the attempt to do better at the World's Fair, the Cotton and International Exposition in Atlanta, which had a Negro building, and Booker T's famous, or infamous, Atlanta Compromise speech on the opening day, September 18, 1895, the Pan-American Exposition in Buffalo, New York, where the Tuskegee Institute had a featured exhibit, and President McKinley was assassinated, opening the door for Vice President Roosevelt to occupy the White House. Supporting characters could include Dr. William Crum, an African-American physician who Roosevelt, at Washington's suggestion, appointed as Collector of Customs in Charleston, South Carolina. Senator Pitchfork Benjamin Tillman, who opposed Dr. Crum's nomination and was highly critical of Booker T's dining at the White House, and was then denied his own invitation to dinner at the White House after starting a fistfight on the Senate floor. Captains of industry like the Rockefellers and Carnegies, who donated millions to African American education. Successful African American artists at the time like Paul Laurence Dunbar and Scott Joplin, who tried to produce an opera based on the dinner, and of course Portia Washington and Alice Roosevelt, the two daughters whose mothers died at their births, and whose constant wild streaks and conflicts with their strict stepmothers gave their famous fathers endless headaches. An adaptation of Mrs. Davis's book could be called Booker T and T.R., Roosevelt and Washington, or Guest of Honor. It would make a great character and scene study movie like that of Elvis and Nixon. I could see Bleecker Street or Amazon Studios producing it as a movie. Because it examines the lives of two very important characters in American history, and the impact of their relationship upon the nation, I believe that Guest of Honor by Deborah Davis should be a movie. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and let me know in the comment section what book from American history you think should be a movie. Also, please like and subscribe to That Should Be a Movie on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Thank you. Also, please follow That Should Be a Movie.